Getting a strong foundational knowledge of sociological concepts and ideas is very important before we get into, let's say, the juicy stuff, the topical stuff. But we've got to understand kind of the big picture and how the big picture operates and impacts and affects us and the way we move through the world. One of the key concepts in sociology is culture, and culture is all the knowledge, values, language, customs, traditions that are created within a society and that are passed on from generation to generation. We could categorize them as material culture, which are the tangible things that are created and used and made within a society, and the non-material culture, which are the intangible or abstract things. Now, these two aspects of culture, non-material and material, do work together, and they do influence the development of the other. So when you see someone wearing a shirt that has a message on the shirt, could be rock the vote, right? That is sending a message through language, but it's also a part of material culture because it's actually a t-shirt that you can hold in your hands and touch. But the idea of voting, even though it's printed in some form of ink or however it's applied to the t-shirt, which is again material, is sharing idea, which is part of non-material culture. So they do work together. They're not separate. I think that one aspect of society that we really want to look at that emanates from culture and stays within culture are beliefs and values. Now, beliefs are what a person accepts to be true. There's great variety in what people believe in so many different areas of belief. Perhaps belief, one strong belief I think that many people have is what happens to us when we die, the afterlife. There are many beliefs about what happens, and people say this is where how it's going to go down. That's their truth. Sometimes it's unshakable. Beliefs can change. Values can change as well. Values are collective ideas about what is right or wrong, good or bad within a society. It can be impacted by change over time, new innovations, new ideas that have been presented that can change values. So again, nothing is static. One of the great interesting things about studying sociology and studying people behavior is that people always change, society is always changing, culture is shifting. And what this means is we are being influenced by how we think, how we feel, and the way that we behave. So some of these things related to beliefs and values are observable in other people, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes we let people know what we believe and what our values are, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't really know. But if they come out in behaviors and we observe them, we sometimes make the assumption that there's a certain belief system at play. A lot of times we immediately assume, back to the afterlife, we assume that most people believe that when you die, you go to heaven and you see everybody who died before you. That is a belief system that many people have, but not everybody. So we cannot make the assumption about belief systems or values just by what we see observably, or even what people may say. They may say something different than they really believe because they want to conform to what the majority believes. So just because someone says they believe something, it may not be what's true. It's really a complicated thing because I believe we should try to, live within our own belief system and values. And if it's not working for us, change it, but not go against it, not have this internal value conflict, which can happen. So when we're looking at things like beliefs and values and small group dynamics, we're looking through the lens of symbolic interactionism, which takes a closer observation of the day-to-day interactions and behaviors of people in groups. How do groups influence behavior In what ways and what mechanisms do they influence people's behaviors, ideas, beliefs, and values? And that would be language is hugely responsible. I'm saying language is responsible even though it's people, but the idea of using language. Now, language is a set of symbols, because a symbol is anything that meaningfully represents something else. Language is a set of symbols. Every society has a language. Not all languages are written. Some are only oral. Some are written. Some are using certain letters, and some are using certain symbols that we cannot decipher. And I find language just so interesting to study. There's also nonverbal language, facial expressions, what a smile means. There's a lot of universality around nonverbal. Even though we don't have the same language, nonverbals can really be effective in dealing with a situation where we don't speak the same language or we're not writing the same language. Then there is the aspect of using language intentionally. Are we saying something because we really mean it? And that's what intention is. This is what I really mean to say, and I'm telling you this. But then there's also the subconscious language. A lot of that it comes through in our nonverbal language. So if we're not saying something, if I say, "No, I'm not angry," look at my face. I could be like, "No, I'm not angry." The way I might fold my arms, and it's contradicting what I say. So it can get really complicated. And it can really take great effort to really understand and ask for clarification and observe. But again, the bottom line is we can never make assumptions about a person based upon the language that they use, based upon whether their nonverbals are intentional or non-intentional. So thank you so much for listening and watching this brief video to develop your sociological foundation concepts.